Hi guys, my name is Michael Hofer and I've created a preset called Color Flow for After Effects, and we are going to take a look at this during the next 20 to 30 minutes. As you can see in this little demo, you can create some cover flow effects, best known from iTunes, the one right here, but you can also use it together with text in a more vertical way like here, or to make some spread out effects with photos like the one here. And it also works with other plugins like Video Copilot's Element. Now, before we actually can use it, we have to install it, and you first have to download the content. It's a zip file, and if you open up the zip file, you have a cover flow folder, a text file, and a project file for After Effects. First, we have to copy this cover flow folder into our presets folder. So open up our Explorer and navigate to your presets folder. It's program files, Adobe, Adobe CS6, support files, presets, and then just drag and drop this entire folder into the presets folder. I have already installed it, so it asks me if I want to override it. I say yes. Please do it for all files. Okay, so now the preset is installed. We can close both of these windows and start After Effects. This will take a second or two here on my machine. So once After Effects has started, we create a new composition and add in a null layer and call this one controller. This name is actually important. The null layer, or there's always a control layer in the setup you're gonna create, and this one has to have the name controller. Now go into presets and cover flow, and in here you have two files. One is called cover flow, the other one cover flow controller. And because this is a controller, we add in the controller. Now we get this message that there is a missing effect. We click OK for now. And it also says here that the effect is missing. I'm gonna explain it right in a second why this happens. Now add in a solid. I go with 200 by 200. Pick whatever color you want. Make this solid a 3D layer and also parented it to the control layer. Final step is to add the cover flow preset to the layer. And as you can see now, I have an animation slider here. It does something. So it is actually working, even though we had this message in the beginning. Now the reason why we get this message is because cover flow is a pseudo effect, as you can see here. If you want to know more about pseudo effects, you can go to AE Tuts. There's actually a tutorial about pseudo effects. They're also called custom effects. Or you can also go to Batch Frame. They have under After Effects Extras, they have a tutorial how to create your own pseudo effects. So check out these sites to learn more about pseudo effects. The difference is, as you can see here, it looks like a standard After Effects effect. If I, just to show you how it would look without a pseudo effect, I create another controller. That actually messed with my expressions, but that's okay for now. And there's a legacy folder in the cover flow folder, and you can add the cover flow controller from the legacy folder. And as you can see, it does the same, but now we have all these expression controls, and it clutters up the UI. And it's might be harder to navigate or to change settings, and it's just not as good looking or as straightforward as the pseudo effect. That's why I use pseudo effects. Now let's close After Effects for a second. If you want to get rid of this message, what you have to do is open up again the zip file, and there is a text file in here, and in this text file there is some code, or just another text. And you also have to navigate again to your presets folder. So we go back to program files, Adobe, that's wrong, Adobe CS6, support files, and in here we have a preset effects XML file. Now we go and open this up with an editor. In my case I use Notepad for Windows, and then we scroll down just to the bottom of it. And in here, or in the last two lines, we have an effect and an effects line. Now just hit enter to make some room between these two lines. Go back to that text file that is in the content, hit Control A and then Control C to copy all of this, and then just paste it in between these two lines. That is actually important, it has to be in between. So hit Control V. Now go under File and Save. Okay, and we've saved this file. Let's close everything down and restart After Effects again. And create a new composition. Let's add in a null. Call it controller. Go to Effects, Presets, Cover Flow Controller. And as you can see, the message is gone and we have cover flow here. So everything works as it should. Now if you open up the project file that comes with the content, you will see all the examples from the demo video. I'm not gonna recreate them from scratch with you guys. I'm pretty sure you should be able to dive into these compositions and figure out how I did that. It's actually not that hard. Most of it is just using cover flow. So instead I'm just going to show you the basic settings of cover flow. So I create a new project and a new composition. I add in a null, call it controller. I'm also going to add in a solid, 300 by 300 is fine. Call this some photo, hit OK. Now let's make the photo layer a 3D layer and make sure it is a child of the controller. Go to Effects and Presets and just add in the presets. Controller to the controller and the cover flow to the photo. Now first slide or first settings you have is this slider that goes from 0 to 100, and this is the one that controls the whole animation. So it always goes from 0 to 100 no matter how many slides you have. So just go here and let's duplicate this a few times, and as you can see the slider still goes from 100 to 0, and the idea is that 0 is always the start and 100 is always the end, no matter how many layers you have. Okay, now next step is we have to tell CoverFlow how big our slides are. So in the slide options, we have the size value right here. So I go and type in 300 by 300, oops, not 3000. And now if I go to 0, as you can see, it really is the start. It just goes to the border of the composition. And if I go all the way up to 100, it is right on the top border of the composition. Okay, so far so good. The next value, let's go to 50 first so we can see our slides. The next value is the offset, and right now it's at 300, so all the layers are pretty close together. And if I increase this by, I don't know, let's say 10, as you can see, we have some room between the slides. The transition value, if I increase the value, as you can see here, more and more slides get affected by the scale value. Now the higher this number, the more slides get affected, as you hopefully can see here. So even though this layer isn't really in the center, it still gets scaled a little bit. And if I decrease this value, only the layer that is closest to the center gets actually affected by the scale. So that's the transition value. Then here we have scale, pretty straightforward. The higher the value, the more scale is added to the layer that is closest to the center. And I can also go with lower numbers or even negative numbers, as you can see here. So that works in both directions. The next thing is the flow axis. Right now we are using it on the y-axis, and if I check this box, it switches to the x-axis. So yeah, this is simple, x or y-axis. It's just a checkbox. We can add some rotation to it if we want to by checking this rotation checkbox. And as you can see, every slide gets rotated as soon as it goes further away from the center. And there's also an angle value, so I can go crazy. And as you can see, they now rotate several times. Probably not what you want, but it is possible. Let's go back here to, let's say, 90. And so as soon as they go further away from the center, they rotate to the angle you type in here. Next is the opacity fade. If you activate that one, it really goes, it decreases the opacity as soon as the slide goes away from the center, as you can see here. And only the one that is in the center is actually visible. And there's an end opacity value, so if you don't want them to disappear, you can increase this value, and as you can see, maybe reduce it down to 20 so it's more visible. Yeah, they go from 100 when they are in the center to 20 when they are in the background. Okay, next is the background color fade. Instead of using opacity, you can also use a color. Right now, or per default, it's black, but let's switch this to maybe green. And now, as you can see, it goes from the original color, which is blue in this case, to the one I've picked here. And yeah, it fades between these two colors. Okay, next is blur. Again, the same thing. If you activate that, all the layers get blurred as soon as they are, if they're not in the center, they get blurred. That's how it works. Let's reset this to 50. So as you can see, the one that is in the center is not blurred and all the others are. Now, of course, a blur is a 2D effect, but this is a 3D scene, so you can see the blur doesn't really work here. It's pretty obvious that something is wrong. That's because blur is just a 2D effect. You can always use a camera in After Effects and use the depth of field with the camera to make sure that this is actually looking the way it should. But I think in some cases this is quite useful. It can work, and because it's a fast blur, it really renders fast, so everything works fine. And if you really need the real thing, then just add in a camera and use the depth of field. There's also a switch for high quality, and if you activate that one, it exchanges the fast blur with the camera lens blur effect in the background. So in case you have photos and you wanted this blurred out effect with the bokeh, or I don't know what it's called, I think it's bokeh, then you can switch to high quality and it will add the camera lens blur effect. Of course, it is more CPU intensive, so your render time will increase. Okay, let's switch this back off. That's the blur level. So far so good, and now we have the last section right here, which is randomness, and to show you that, I'm just deactivate rotation again, and I'm also going to set the scale to 0, so I end up with just all the slides next to each other. The randomness does exactly what it says. You can randomize position and rotation. For example, I'm going to randomize the Z rotation, and as you can see, every slide rotates a little bit, and it just adds rotation to it, which makes the whole thing maybe more interesting if you need this kind of look. And you can also do the same thing with position for X, Y, and Z. And then you have randomness added. If you don't like this particular setting here, you just can change the seed. And these settings still remain the same, but by changing the seed, you get different results, and you can change this until you have something that you like. In case you want to animate this from the original state to this randomized state, there is a strength slider. Right now it's at 100, so all the settings you change here go directly to the slides, but if I decrease this value, it goes to the original position, which was this one right here. Let's say it is 0 here, and you change the scale here. It still affects the original scale, and now on top of that, if I add in some strength here, I have both. I have the scale from here, and I have the randomness from down here. So that's how that works. As you can see, each slide still gets affected by the scale that I have here. Okay, the last thing I want to show you guys is how fast and easy it is to make your own slideshow. So first step here is to import some images. And I have here some prepared ones. They're all 300 by 300, but you can take whatever size you want. The important thing here is instead of importing them as single images, I hit the Photoshop sequence button in the import dialog and hit open. I also want them to import as footage, so hit OK here, and then I drag and drop it into the timeline, which creates me a new composition. And as you can see, every frame is a new image. Okay, now I create another composition. This time I'm going with the HD 720 preset, and I call this one slideshow. Duration 100 frames. Should be okay for this example. And now I'm drag and drop the photo composition into my slideshow composition, and I'm also going to add a null object. Call this one controller. Make sure that the controller is at the bottom. Turn on the 3D switch and make the photo layer a child of the controller. Now go into effects and presets and add in the presets. So first the controller and then second the photo layer. Okay, let's see if it works. Yes, looks good. It seems to work. Now next step is to activate the enable time remapping option for the photo layer, and then we are going to add in an expression by holding down the Alt button on your keyboard and clicking the stopwatch, and in here we type this comp dot frame duration times index -1. We also are going to extend the duration of this layer until the end, so we can see the photos. And now we can duplicate this photo 5 times. And as you can see, it works actually. If I go to my slider, as you can see here, all the pictures are showing up. Now from here, I just switch to the x-axis. I also turn on the rotation. And I would also like to add some blur, maybe not as much. And I would also like to add some opacity, and maybe end opacity 20. And now, as you can see, we have a slideshow. Maybe we want to increase the transition a bit, and we want to reduce the offset. So, okay, right now they are intersecting, as you can see here. So we can change the view, 2 views, and as you can see here, these 2 slides are intersecting. So I'm going to increase the offset a little bit until they do not intersect anymore. Okay, that looks good. So that's it. That's your own slideshow. I think it was just a matter of 2 or 3 minutes. And from here, of course, you can change your settings. You can add some random rotation to it if you want to look at it a bit more, I don't know, funky, whatever. So yeah, that's about it from my side. I hope you like CoverFlow. It's a free preset, so give it a try. If you have questions, just post a comment, and I do my best to answer all the questions. And of course, if you do some work, actually, just post me a link. I would love to see what you do with it. So thanks again, and see you guys. Bye-bye.